Welcome to the Semper AI Daily Digest. I'm Tomas, your AI research lead, always scanning the horizon for what's next.
And I'm Aiva. Together, we keep you sharp, informed, and ahead of the curve.
Let's get into it.
All right, so imagine if I told you that OpenAI just dropped an image model that's not just winning, but absolutely demolishing the competition by margins we've literally never seen before. We're talking a 242-point lead in text-to-image generation. That's like winning a race by 3 laps.
Wait, 242 points? That's insane. I mean, we usually see these models clustered pretty tightly at the top of the leaderboards, right? A 20 or 30-point gap is considered significant.
Exactly. And that's just one of the stories we're diving in today on Semper AI Digest. I'm Tomas.
And I'm Aiva. We've also got Claude's new memory management system that's actually treating memories like files, GPT 5.5 rolling out today, and some fascinating developments in how we're going to measure AI's real economic impact.
But let's start with this GPT-Image-2 announcement, because it's a clean sweep, Aiva. OpenAI didn't just win one category, they took the top spot across all 3 image arena leaderboards. Text-to-image, single-image editing, multi-image editing, everything.
Okay, break down these numbers for me because I want to make sure I'm understanding the scale here.
So in text-to-image, GPT-Image-2 scored 1,512 points. The second-place model, which is actually Gemini 3.1 Flash Image, they're calling it Nano Banana 2 with web search in the arena, scored 1,270. That 242-point gap, that's the largest margin Image Arena has ever recorded.
And this is coming from the same arena system that ranks these models based on human preferences, right? So this isn't just benchmark gaming. This is actual humans consistently choosing GPT-Image-2 over everything else.
Right. And when you look at the other categories, it's the same story. Single image editing, they're 125 points ahead of Gemini 3 Pro. Multi-image editing, 90 points ahead. These aren't close races anymore.
What's really interesting to me is the timing here. We've been seeing this back and forth between OpenAI and Google in the image space for months. Gemini's image models have been really competitive, sometimes leading in certain areas.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about how Google's image models were setting new standards for photorealism and prompt adherence. This feels like OpenAI's definitive response.
Do we know anything about what's actually different with GPT-Image-2? Like, what's driving this performance jump?
That's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, OpenAI hasn't shared technical details yet. But think about what's happened with their text models. We've seen them get much better at following complex instructions, understanding nuance, maintaining consistency. Those same improvements could be transformative for image generation.
That's a good point. If you can better understand what the user is actually asking for, that's half the battle with image generation. How many times have we all had that experience where you give a prompt and the AI just misses the point entirely?
Right, like when you ask for a cozy coffee shop and you get something that looks like a stark modern laboratory with a single coffee cup sitting on a steel table.
Exactly. And if GPT-Image-2 is consistently nailing the intent behind prompts, that would absolutely show up in these human preference rankings. People would choose it every time because it's giving them what they actually wanted.
What's also fascinating is the multi-image editing capability. That's become such a crucial feature for practical applications. Being able to take multiple images and edit them coherently, maintaining style consistency across a set.
That's huge for creative workflows. I mean, if you're designing a brand identity or working on a content series, being able to maintain that visual coherence across multiple images without having to manually fine-tune everything, that's the difference between a useful tool and a game changer.
And with a 90-point lead in that category, it sounds like GPT-Image-2 has figured out something fundamental about maintaining context and style across image sets that other models are still struggling with.
I'm curious about the competitive response here. Google's not going to just sit on this, right? They've been so aggressive about pushing the boundaries with their image models.
Oh, definitely not. If history is any guide, we'll probably see Google announce something significant within the next few weeks. This kind of performance gap is exactly the type of thing that triggers rapid iteration cycles.
Which is great for us as users, honestly. This competitive pressure keeps pushing these models forward at an incredible pace.
Speaking of competitive pressure, let's talk about Claude's new approach to memory management, because this is actually a really elegant solution to something that's been bugging developers for months.
Right, so Anthropic announced that memories in Claude are now stored as actual files, which sounds simple, but the implications are pretty significant.
Yeah, think about how memories have worked in most AI systems up to now. They're like thoughts floating around in the AI's head. You can't really see them, you can't manage them directly, you can't export them or back them up. They're just there, somewhere in the system.
And that's been a real problem for developers trying to build applications on top of these models. How do you audit what the AI remembers? How do you ensure compliance with data regulations? How do you migrate memories if you need to switch systems?
Exactly. But now with Claude, memories are files. You can export them, you can manage them via the API, you can see exactly what the AI has retained about previous conversations or interactions.
This feels like such a developer-first approach. Like Anthropic looked at all the pain points people were having trying to build production systems with AI memory and said, what if we just made this work like everything else developers are used to?
And the control aspect is huge. The announcement specifically mentions that developers keep full control over what agents retain. That's addressing one of the biggest concerns people have had about AI systems learning and remembering things.
Right, because up until now, if you had an AI assistant that was learning from your interactions, you kind of had to trust that it was only remembering the right things and forgetting what it should forget. There wasn't really a way to verify or manage that process.
Now you can literally see the files. You can delete specific memories, you can export them for backup, you can audit them for compliance. It's like the difference between having a filing cabinet you can open and organize versus having someone tell you they're keeping notes somewhere but you can never see them.
And from an enterprise perspective, this has to be huge. Data governance teams can actually manage how AI systems handle institutional knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine you're a company using Claude for internal processes, and then you need to prove to auditors exactly what information the AI has access to and how long it's retaining it. Now you can just point to the memory files.
It also makes me think about portability. If memories are files, theoretically, you could take those memories and, well, maybe not immediately port them to a different AI system, but at least you're not locked into one vendor's opaque memory format.
That's a really good point. It's like the difference between keeping all your photos in a proprietary cloud service versus having them as standard JPEG files you can move anywhere.
So what's the developer experience like? Are these just JSON files or something more structured?
Anthropic hasn't shared the detailed format yet, but given that they're accessible via API, I'd expect something pretty standard. JSON would make sense, maybe with some metadata about when memories were created, how they're categorized, confidence scores for the information.
Confidence scores would be smart. Not all memories are created equal, right? Some things the AI might be very certain about, others might be more like, I think the user mentioned something about preferring blue, but I'm not completely sure.
Exactly, and having that granularity means developers could build much more sophisticated systems. Maybe high-confidence memories get used immediately, while low-confidence ones trigger confirmation prompts.
This whole approach feels like part of a broader trend toward making AI systems more transparent and controllable. We're moving away from these black boxes toward tools that feel more like, well, like tools that professionals can actually use in production.
Speaking of production-ready tools, we need to talk about GPT 5.5 because that's rolling out today for Plus, Pro, Business, and Enterprise users.
Wait, today? As in people can access this right now?
Yep, it's available across ChatGPT and Codex. And here's what's really interesting. They're also introducing something called GPT 5.5 Pro specifically for Pro, Business, and Enterprise users.
Okay, so we've got GPT 5.5 and then GPT 5.5 Pro. I'm assuming Pro is the more capable version?
That's what it sounds like, though OpenAI hasn't detailed exactly what the differences are yet. But based on their announcement about inference improvements, it seems like GPT 5.5 Pro is designed for what they call demanding tasks.
What kind of inference improvements are we talking about?
They're describing it as full-stack inference improvements that enable a more capable model at faster speed. And apparently, this makes GPT 5.5 Pro much more practical for complex work.
That phrasing is interesting. More practical suggests that maybe previous versions were capable but too slow for real-world use cases?
Right, like they had the capability, but the performance made it frustrating to actually use. You know that experience where you ask an AI to do something complex and then you're just waiting and waiting.
Oh, absolutely. Especially for iterative work where you need to go back and forth with the model, refining ideas or exploring different approaches. If each interaction takes 30 seconds, the whole process becomes tedious.
And that connects to something really interesting in their announcement. Early testers are describing GPT 5.5 Pro as an iterative research partner. That suggests it's not just about getting one good answer, but about having a productive back-and-forth conversation.
A research partner. That's fascinating. That implies it can maintain context across long conversations, build on previous insights, maybe even challenge or refine its own earlier suggestions.
Yeah, and they specifically mention it performs especially well when paired with contextual inputs from documents and plugins. So it's not just generating responses in isolation, it's actually integrating information from multiple sources.
That's huge for professional workflows. Being able to upload relevant documents, connect to data sources, and then have the AI work with all of that context to help you research or analyze something.
It reminds me of having a really smart colleague who can instantly read through all your background materials and then brainstorm with you. Except this colleague never gets tired and can process way more information than any human.
The document integration is particularly interesting to me. How many times have you had a great conversation with an AI, but then you couldn't easily incorporate external information without losing the flow?
All the time. You're deep into exploring some complex topic, and then you remember you have a relevant report or data set, but bringing that in means starting over or awkwardly copy-pasting chunks of text.
Right, so if GPT 5.5 Pro can seamlessly work with documents and plugins while maintaining that conversational research dynamic, that's addressing a real pain point.
And the speed improvements make it viable for the kind of iterative exploration where you might have dozens of back-and-forth exchanges. You can actually think out loud with the AI without it feeling sluggish.
I'm curious about the rollout strategy here. Making it available to Plus, Pro, Business, and Enterprise users immediately is pretty aggressive. Usually these major model releases have some kind of staged rollout.
That's a good point. It suggests they're pretty confident in the stability and performance. Either that or they're feeling competitive pressure to get this out quickly.
Could be both. The AI space is moving so fast right now that sitting on a significant improvement for weeks or months might mean losing momentum to competitors.
Absolutely. And speaking of understanding the real-world impact of these AI improvements, Anthropic just launched something really interesting called the Economic Index Survey.
Right. This is about measuring AI's actual economic impact beyond just the theoretical projections and benchmarks we usually see.
Exactly. Anthropic's point is that to truly understand how AI is changing the economy, we need much more qualitative data, and they're going to collect that by surveying Claude users monthly about how AI is changing their work.
That's such a smart approach. Instead of trying to extrapolate from abstract metrics, just ask the people who are actually using AI day to day.
Right, because there's this huge gap between what we think AI can do and what people are actually using it for. The theoretical capabilities might be impressive, but if users aren't finding practical value, that doesn't translate to economic impact.
And the monthly cadence is interesting. AI capabilities are improving so rapidly that annual surveys would miss a lot of the nuance in how people adapt their workflows.
Yeah, think about how your own use of AI has evolved just in the past few months. I bet it's changed significantly from how you were using it at the beginning of the year.
Oh, absolutely. Early on, I was mostly using it for one-off questions or simple writing tasks. Now it's integrated into research workflows, brainstorming sessions, data analysis. The sophistication of what I'm asking it to help with has increased dramatically.
And that evolution is exactly what this survey should capture. Not just are you using AI more or less, but how is the nature of your AI usage changing, and how is that affecting your productivity, creativity, decision-making?
It also addresses something that's been bothering me about a lot of the economic projections around AI. They tend to assume uniform adoption and impact across industries, but the reality is much more nuanced.
Right, like some knowledge workers might see massive productivity gains, while others might find AI barely relevant to their specific roles. Some companies might transform entire workflows, while others might use AI for minor optimizations.
And without that granular data, it's hard to make meaningful predictions about employment, wages, skill requirements, all the stuff that actually matters for policy and planning.
What's also smart is that they're surveying their own users rather than trying to do a broad population survey. Claude users are actively engaged with AI, so they can provide informed perspectives on how the technology is actually performing.
Though that does introduce some bias, right? Claude users might be more AI optimistic or have different use cases than the general population.
That's true, but I think for understanding the leading edge of AI adoption, that bias might actually be useful. These are the users pushing the boundaries of what's possible, so their experiences today might predict broader adoption patterns tomorrow.
Good point. And Anthropic is being transparent about this being Claude users specifically, so anyone interpreting the data will know the context.
I'm really curious to see what they learn. Like, are there specific AI capabilities that drive disproportionate economic value? Are there unexpected barriers to adoption that aren't obvious from the outside?
Or maybe certain combinations of AI features that are particularly powerful when used together, even if each individual feature seems modest.
Exactly. This kind of qualitative data could inform how AI companies prioritize development. Instead of just chasing benchmark scores, they could focus on capabilities that actually translate to user value.
All right, let's shift gears and hit some quick developments.
OpenAI announced that workspace agents are now available in research preview for ChatGPT Business, Enterprise, Education, and Teachers PANs.
Workspace agents. So these are AI assistants that can work across different business applications and systems, not just chat interfaces.
Right. Think integration with email, calendars, document management, project tracking tools. The AI becomes part of your actual work environment instead of a separate thing you have to switch to.
That's a huge step toward AI that actually fits into existing workflows, instead of requiring people to adapt their processes around the AI's limitations.
Google's got news too. Gemini Embedding 2 is now generally available in the Gemini API and Vertex AI. They're calling it their first natively multimodal embedding model.
Multimodal embeddings are fascinating because they let you search and compare across different types of content. You could search for images using text descriptions or find documents that relate to audio content.
And the fact that it's natively multimodal rather than separate models stitched together should mean better performance and more coherent results across different media types.
Google also launched Gemini 3.1 TTS with something called audio tags, so you can control the text-to-speech output with inline tags like whispers or slow or short pause.
Oh, that's clever. Instead of trying to convey tone through text descriptions, you just mark up the speech directly, much more intuitive for creating natural-sounding audio.
Right. And they're giving examples like using cackles or controlling pace with fast and slow tags. That level of granular control could make AI-generated speech much more expressive and contextually appropriate.
And Google's DeepThink is now available to all Ultra subscribers through Gemini. This is their advanced reasoning mode for complex problems.
DeepThink is interesting because it's specifically designed for multi-step reasoning tasks where you need the AI to work through complex logic rather than just generating quick responses.
Plus, Google mentioned their Model Garden now has access to over 200 leading AI models, including their latest releases like Gemini 3.1 Pro, Flash Image, and Lyria 3.
The Model Garden approach is really smart. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone with a single model, you give developers access to a whole ecosystem of specialized models for different use cases.
It's like having a toolbox instead of trying to do everything with a single Swiss Army knife. Different problems call for different tools.
And that brings us back to something we've been seeing across all these announcements today. Whether it's GPT-Image-2 dominating the leaderboards, Claude's file-based memory system, or GPT-5.5's research partner capabilities, there's this trend toward AI tools that are more specialized, more controllable, and more integrated into real workflows.
Right. We're moving past the wow, AI can do things phase into the how do we make AI actually useful for specific purposes phase, which is probably where the real economic impact that Anthropic wants to measure will come from.
Exactly. It's not just about having impressive capabilities in isolation. It's about building systems that people can rely on for important work, that integrate cleanly with existing tools and processes, and that give users the control and transparency they need.
And the competitive dynamics are pushing everyone in that direction. You can't just release a model that's slightly better at benchmarks anymore. You need to solve real user problems in ways that are meaningfully better than existing solutions.
Which makes this such an exciting time to be following this space. We're seeing fundamental innovations in how AI systems are designed and deployed, not just incremental improvements to existing approaches.
The pace of change is incredible. Like, we started today talking about GPT-Image-2 setting records that seemed impossible just a few months ago. And by the time this episode publishes, there might already be responses from other companies.
That's the reality of covering AI news in 2026. The competitive cycles are so fast that major announcements can completely shift the landscape in a matter of weeks.
But that's also what makes it so important to focus on the underlying trends rather than just individual announcements. The specific models and features will keep evolving, but the direction toward more useful, controllable, and integrated AI tools feels pretty clear.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll keep tracking here on Semper AI Digest. Not just what's new, but what's actually meaningful for people trying to understand and use these rapidly evolving technologies.
If you're finding value in these deep dives into AI developments, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and share this with anyone else who's trying to keep up with the pace of AI progress.
The landscape changes so quickly that having a community of people thinking through these developments together makes a real difference. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.